We're going to go on Daf Mesech Kesuvos Daf Chadal. We begin on the bottom of Gimel and Beis. We'll end up in the bottom of Yomid, where we begin the Gemara's discussion explaining all the Mishnayos that we had mentioned up until this point, which were all based on the same principle of the Pesha, also Pesha Hitta, including our last Mishnah. The Gemara explains what was the necessity of all these Mishnayos. This corresponds because of the time during today's Daf, Chodesh. Some of these we're going to discuss are the proof that is required to confirm one's eligibility to eat the truma. How does a person prove that? The concern of chashin l'goyman, which is that we're concerned that even though people are testifying regarding each other, but we're concerned that maybe they're just, doing favors for each other and they're really not saying the truth. The discussions regarding malam and truma liyuchasin, if we see someone eating truma or that they're giving out the portions of the truma to that person, would that elevate them to the halacha of yichus, that they can marry people that for kahuna? Malam mishtaras liyuchasin, do we elevate, let's say, in a document that says that the person's a kohen over there, would that be a verification that also for yichus? Malam and says kapam liyuchasin, the last discussion is going to be regarding if we see a kohen duchening, would that validate and verify that he's a kohen, and therefore also elevate him for the halachas of yichus? Now we said in the previous Mishnah, v'chein shnei anoshim, which was v'chein because at the top of the Yamin, we had the case of two women who were taken in captivity, regarding saying on themselves that they're tired, we don't believe them. But when each one says regarding the other one, she's tired, we said that she's tired. So our Mishnah also, the last one on Daf Yomi on the bottom, says v'chein shnei anoshim is only regarding two men. If he says I'm a kohen, he says I'm a kohen, not believe because in a made all so a person can't believe on himself that he's saying he's a kohen. But when he says he's a kohen, the other guy says he's a kohen. So then we said in the Mishnah, Harei Me'idin, Harei Namanim. So that's what the Tanna Kama had said that they're believed. If you just said that no, you can't elevate the kahuna based on one witness. Rabbi Lazar says when there's those who's contesting, those who don't contest, that you could elevate. And then Shmuel said, and then Shmuel Naskan, that you could elevate the kahuna piyerach. And we're going to explain exactly what are they actually disagreeing about. But now the Gemara begins, it just explains. This is 3 lines up at the bottom of the Yomim. Kol Hani, all these cases that we learned in the previous Mishnayos, which are all teaching us the same concept of Hapesha Asahu Hapesha Hitta, which is since I'm the one that said it's problematic, I'm the one that could say that it's permitted. If you recall, we had the case of the field, which the guy tells him, look, this is your father's field that I bought it from him. There was a case of Adam who said, yes, this is our testimony, but Anushmi, Niktanmi, all those different cases. There was the case of Eshes, which she said, I'm married, but I want you to know I got divorced. We had the case of the Shvuya, where she said, oh, I was in captivity, but Irani. And we had this last mission of Truma, which said, oh, that I am a kohen. So all these different cases, to say that the person is Neman, why do you need all these cases? Lamali, what was the necessity of all these Mishnayos? So that's the Gemara Shri. The Gemara is going to explain why we need all these Mishnayos. Going back to the first case that we had of this pair, regarding when we had Rabbi Shua who was agreeing that he said, he said this was your father's field, but I bought it from him. Maybe over there is Mishumdika Dara de Memaina, which the way Rashi makes it sound like is that there's a monetary loss. So therefore, if it wasn't so obvious to this guy that he had bought it from that guy's father, he wouldn't have said in the beginning Shalavicha Isa and caused himself a monetary loss. So when he's saying in the beginning those words, obviously was with his intention of what he was going to say at the end, to finish off his sentence, and said, yes, but l'kachtiyah. So maybe over there when there's a dara, there's a loss of money, then we're going to believe him that what he's saying at the end is a clarification of what he always meant to say. I will aid him. Regarding when witnesses say, oh, Kasabi Dana, who said, this is our handwriting. The leka dara d'mayna, where there's no monetary loss, for them at least, with their testimony. A maloi, I would say we don't believe them when they want to end off and say, but anusamayinu, because in the beginning when they said, Kasabi Dana, this is our handwriting, their intention was to say testimony and not to finish up on Ismail. Then they changed their mind at the end. They want to say, oh, but Ismail, no. And we don't necessarily believe you. Amaloi. So therefore, that's what we have to tell you that no, even over there, we believe you with the Pesha Aser that you said that you're the Adam. You could also undo it by saying Anusmail. Now, Vitan Adam, had we had said only the second Mishnah regarding the witnesses being believed, Mishum de Alma, Mishum de la Alma. That's because their later words is not effective for themselves, it's relevant for other people. For other people, they wouldn't just retract from what they're saying. Must be what they're saying is a clarification of what the original statement was. But the first case of when the guy tells him, this is your father's field, but I bought it from him. Where it's effective for himself. When he subsequently says, but I bought it from him, as a Gittin of Chavdal Menal, I would say it would not be effective because the guy's lying for his own personal invested interest. Therefore, you have to tell me that there too, no, the Pesha As is going to work and that you're believed to say, so those were the first two Mishnayos. We said those two cases, because ultimately those are regarding monetary law. One's regarding the guy saying his father's field, and the other one is regarding the witnesses on a monetary document. But the third Mishnah was discussing a married woman who she's saying, hey, by the way, I was married, but I got divorced. Well, that's prohibitory law. That's Yodidea, that's not Chayshim Mishpat. Emaloi, I would say that, oh no, we're not going to believe you. Therefore, I have to tell you that even by prohibitory law, the Pesha Asa is still going to work to tell me that we believe you. Now, what's with the fourth Mishnah of Nishbeisi? The woman said that I was taken in captivity. But, just b'toirani, this was the Mishnah of Bezim and Aleph, Lomali, what's the necessity of that? Why is that any different in the case of Eishes, Isha, Yisi, V'nizgarsha, which is both regarding Isser? Says the Gemara, Mishum de Kaboila Misni. You're right, that's not really telling us a Chiddush, because we wanted to say the next part. V'mishanisses, and if she really got married, and then Bo Eidim witnesses come, which she loses her Pesha Asr essentially, because the witnesses are telling us that we knew that she was married. It doesn't make a difference. Or in the case of Shvuya, when they said she was in captivity, she's not going to leave from that next marriage, even though she lost the Pesha Asr. That's a Chiddush there you wouldn't know from the case of Eishes to Seisi. That's a specific Chiddush where we said that once the Het already was there, you're not going to lose the Het. But says the Gemara, wait a second. This is only going according to Rabba Oven, the Masni law that he teaches the qualification of this teaching of Mishnah. This is about Eidim Aseifa. If you recall, there was two cases that we had mentioned in that Mishnah. There was the case of Eishes Isha Yisi B'Grushani, and the case of Shvuya Yisi B'Tayrani. There was a machlekes in the Gemara when the Mishnah concluded with the final statement, in Mishnah, this is about Eidim, it is like they say, which one is it going on? Is it going in the Reisha of Eishes Isha, or going in the Seifa of the case of Shvuya? So it says the Gemara, your answer is good according to the one, the Masnala Seifa that teaches on the Seifa of the Shvuya. So that's what the Mishnah is telling me, that I needed the case of Nishbeisi V'Tayrani to qualify on it, this teaching, that once she was Nissis and Bo Eidim, she's not going to be Teitzah. But Alman the Masla Reisha, according to the one that says that it was only going on the Reisha of Eishes Ish, so Michael, what are you going to say? Meaning, or not only, or even both, but you already know that qualification of the Reisha, why do you need to say the case of Shvuya at all? Not to tell me the Chiddush of Ben Mishanissis, because Ben Mishanissis I already know from the Halach of Eishes Ish Yisi. So what was the necessity of saying that? Oh, it says the Gemara, you're right, it's Mishum de Kabbalah Misses, because we want to tell you the Mishnah after that, which is really a continuing theme of that previous case. We wanted to say Shtei Nashim Shenishbu, when two women were taken captivity, to tell us that when they testify for each other, they're going to be believed. So that's really, you didn't have to say really the case of Shvuya, that B'Tahayrani, because really not teaching anything. We just wanted to say that as a lead-in to the next Mishnah. When you have two women that Nishbu, and they say about each other that they're Tahayr, that then they're going to be Ne'emonas and they're going to be believed. But says the Gemara, what do you mean? Why do you need that case of two women that would take captivity? As Tais explains. If it's coming to tell us that one is believed regarding the friend, with the way Rashi explained the Gemara's answer, but that a Mishnah later on explicitly tells us clearly that even an Eved or a Shifcha believe. Why would I think that one does not believe, a regular woman believe for the other one, since they were in captivity? So what's the Chiddush of that case itself? Says, well, no, that is a Chiddush, because now the time, what would you say? Oh, we have to be concerned that these people are paying favors to each other in return. So you say about me, I'll say about you, and great, we'll get out. We won't be forbidden to Kahuna. No, we're not concerned with that, and that one person is believed to say for the other, even if it's a fellow captive woman. The final case of the five cases, our previous Mishnah, to say that when you have two people that they are believed to say regarding the other one that they are kahanim, that they could eat truma. Well, what's that telling us? Isn't that the same thing as shtei noshim shenishbu? It's the same principle that they believe regarding each other. Says the Gemara, you're right, but mishum dekabayla misl wanted to tell us meaning there's an added halacha that gets discussed in our Mishnah. If you mount the kahuna al piyed echad, do we elevate people to the status of kahuna through one aid? So it's not universal, it's not global, this halacha. So you're right, the halacha shtei noshim seemingly is the same as shtei noshim shenishbu, but it's not, because there's a discussion if does eid echad work or not, in contrast to the halacha of shvuya, which eid echad does work. And therefore, that's why we brought in our Mishnah. That's why we had all these five cases in the previous Mishnah. Now, the Gemara brings a brisa that elaborates on our Mishnah. Tanaban Linna brisa. Ani koyin the chaveda koyin. person number one says, I'm a kohen, and my friend is a kohen, person number two. So nema la'achila b'truma. So he's believed to have him eat truma. V've'en nema la'si isha. He's not believed to marry him off to a woman miyucheses, meaning regarding as a kohen, which that's a maila when it came to yuchasin. Generally, when it came to marriage of lineage, they were more strict. So though he could have him eat truma, but he can't have him marry a woman that would marry specifically a kohen. Ad sheyu gimel. Until there's actually three people together, meaning we described it as two people. He was saying about himself and his friend. So there has to be a group of three people. What three? Meaning when you have three people, two will testify to this one and two will testify to that. Each one will have two other people testify to them. So to be malul yuchasin, you have to have two edim that will say that as a kohen, and only then he can marry for kahuna. That's the Tanna Kama. Yehuda, he says that actually no, af ein nemal achila b'truma, and this is what we said in the Mishnah. Rabbi Yehuda is machmer. The words in the Mishnah were imal l'kohen pe'erechad. The Brayse here is explaining that halacha of Rabbi Yehuda that no, you're not even believed to have him eat truma at shiur shleish until you have three. Shnayim eat mazeh, v'shnayim eat mazeh. Each one has to have two testifying on the third guy that is a kohen, and then that would have him be able to eat truma. Now the Gemara assumes that the reason Rabbi Yehuda is because of what's called goyim. That Rabbi Yehuda is more machmer than Tanna Kama. Tanna Kama says that that he's never lachil truma even with eid echad. And Yehuda says no, even to eat truma you have to have two. Why? Why usually say eid echad and then bisurin? Usually say one person believe regarding prohibitory law, the guy for him to eat truma. Why do you need two? Because we're concerned. You say I'm a kohen, I'll say you're a kohen, and Shalom al Yisrael will both to get the truma. And therefore, because you have to have two eid. So the question says, the Gemara, remember, is that to say the Yehuda Chayshel Goimlin? The Yehuda is concerned for paybacks, and each one's doing it for the other one. And Rabbanan Chayshel Goimlin? Because Rabbanan are not concerned with that. They say that each one is believed to say that the other guy is a kohen, so they're both going to get truma. So it sounds like that Rabbi Yehuda and the Rabbi Yehuda are disagreeing if Chayshel Goimlin not. Problem is, says the Gemara, however, we actually hear that it's actually the opposite. Where do we find the opposite? Now, within the Mishnah says is the Mai. It says Hachamorin regarding the donkey drivers. Those they're like the truck drivers. They would transport the grain and they bring it from, let's say, a cheap place, and they would bring it to the cities and charge and make some money. So if they are if they come into a city and Omar Echanem, one of them says that he's praising his friend's produce and he's degrading his own. And he's saying, look, Shali Chadash, and this is where Rashi explains it, that, oh, mine is new, so it's not dried up so much really. It's not such high quality. But Shechaveri Yasha, my friend's is old, meaning it's dried up totally, because generally older is better than the new at the time of the granary, like the Gemara says about Mitzvah on base. So therefore he's like praising his friends. He's saying, look, mine is fresh, it's too fresh, but his is really aged well. Or he says, Shali in a mesukin. Mine is not fixed, meaning no maestros would take it off of mine. My friends, he's a phenomenon. He took off all trimis, all maestros, all zachem. Says Talikama in a he's not believed. Why? Because since he's an Amaretz is not believed regarding maestros. So although he's testifying on his that it's not good, and he's also adding on with this other words to praise his friends, he's not believed to establish his friends that it was fixed, because they're using harama, they're tricking, which is basically they tell each other, they go from town to town. He says, look, in this town, you say mine is good, next time I'll say yours is good. And they say, oh, Taka, he's being honest, he's saying the other guy is better, and they're all going to go to him, and they're both lying every time, they're just switching off. That's how the Tanna Kama holds. Tanna Kama holds not believed. That's the Rabbanan. Rabbanan holds we're concerned for Goimlin. Rabbi Yehuda says Neman says no, he's believed to say that the friends is good, which is we're not concerned for Goimlin. That's exactly the opposite of what we just said in the halacha of our Mishnah, as explained in the Brayse. Seemingly, that Rabbi Yehuda is concerned for Goimlin and says no, you need to have two witnesses, and the Rabban says no. Well, each guy's able to say regarding the other one, which is the Rabban hold you're not chaysha Goimlin, you hold you are, and then this Mishnah in Demai is exactly the opposite. The Rabban hold you're not believed, because we're chayish l'goyim. He says you are believed, you're not chayish l'goyim. It seems to be a contradiction. So he says no problem. He says Okay, just switch around the opinions. And that answers it, obviously. If it's inverse teachings, and you switch it around, and then you'll have Rabbi Yehuda L'Shitasai will say that you are not believed, because he is Chayish L'Gomer. Abai Yomi says another approach. Says, no, you don't have to switch around the opinions. Why? Because b'demai hikilu. By the laws of demai, which is what this Mishnah is talking about. What's demai? Demai is the word damai. What is this? Which is when you buy from Amaret, you don't know if he took a mice or not. Now, the truth is, Roiv Amaret's ma'asrhen. Most ignorant people, they did take off the mice. It's a minority. So they were lenient over there. So although you're right, Rabbi Yehuda is Chayish L'Goyman, and there in the halacha of our Mishnah, when one guy wants to say on his friend and he says, Zakayin, so no. You need two witnesses. We don't believe you guys. You guys are just trying to get some teruma, and we don't trust you. But by Demai is it's a suffix. It's really Roiv, it's really Ma'asrin. Okay. If you have one person saying that it's good, we'll believe you. That answers Rabbi Yehuda. So Amar Rabbi says, okay, Rabbi Yehuda kasha, the Rabbanan run like kasha. You're only answering for Rabbi Yehuda. What are you going to do with the Rabbanan? Rabbanan also contradiction. In our Mishnah, we're saying that they're not concerned. And Demai, they are concerned. You obviously cannot answer Demai Akilu, because to the contrary, you're being more machmer in that Mishnah of Demai than you are over here. How are you going to answer Rabbanan? Sela Rada says Rabba like this. The Yehuda like kasha, he's not difficult, because there's like we answered. The Rabbanan like kasha, why is that not difficult? Because Amar, like we said somewhere else, as we're going to explain on Amid Beis, that Reb Chaim Bar Okri said in a different context that B'shekleim nasa b'yadeh. We're talking about where his utensils of his profession is in his hand. So, as we continue on Amid Beis, his answer actually has something very different context. But Hachanami, you could use his same variable and say we're talking about b'shekleim nasa b'yadeh. We're talking about where he has his professional tools in his hand. As Rashi explains, that a donkey driver that's bringing his grain to sell, so he would carry in his hand a recognizable tool of his profession. For example, let's say a machak. A machak is called a smoother because they would smooth out the piles. And if he would be bringing it just to, like as a package, not to sell, he wouldn't be carrying that tool, which the tool is to show me, come, who's next, like he's going to smooth out the pile and he's going to give you that thing. See, here with the guy who is degrading his own, is holding his professional tool in his hand, so we could testify that obviously he's coming to sell. So what's this that he's saying, oh, man's nish git, as get it, you know, but you're holding the tool. So obviously, that you guys are paybacking for each other. You're waiting until this group of people come in, switch. It's like, now talk about mine, right? So, therefore, that's why we're going to be chayish l'goymlin. So you're right, the Rabbanan are not chayish l'goymlin. As we said in the halacha of our Mishnah, that one person believed to say regarding the other one that he's a kohen, he can eat truma, and he can tell about me that I'm a kohen, he can eat truma. I see the Mishnah Demai, Chacham is saying that if he says Shali Chodesh v'Shachaber Yosh and Shali Ein V'Suk v'Shachaber V'Suk, he's not B'neman. Why is not believed? You're not Chayish L'Gaman. Yeah, but they're coming here. There's indicating factors that are telling us this guy is up to no good. You gotta have some. This is the fifth Chelik Shulchan Aruch. You have the sixth sense. You see this guy's holding his tool. Obviously, the guy's not here just to degrade his stuff, and obviously they're tricking everyone that's walking by. And they're the Chayish L'Gaman, even though generally they're not. Now, says the Gemara, once we mentioned this teaching, but where is the teaching from? You're telling me that you're using his teaching of Kleim Nosa B'Yadai, how to explain why here there would be Chayish L'Gaman. Where does he say this context of this teaching? Says the Gemara, it's in a very different context. It's a Haditnan. It's a running Mishnah Tyrus. Hakadar, regarding a potter, which is a chaver, meaning he's a Talmid Chacham, he's someone he's careful with the laws of Tumah Ta'ara. So he's a potter, he sells pots. And he puts down his pots. The yard lishtas, he bends down to drink, whether it's mayim in the yard or water from the river, but he bends down to drink. What happens now is he has all his pots laid out. Pots for sale, and hapnimius tahir. So the inner pots, closer to him, is tar. But chetaynis to me is the outer ones, towards the public, are going to be tummy. Which the Gemara is going to explain this whole Mishnah. But first the Gemara asks a question. Matanya will learn the Brisa. You're telling me the middle one is tar and the outer ones are tamei, but we have in the Brisa says that they're both tamei. So Amar Ramev For this that teaching that we were quoting before, and it's like you see, it's a very different context. It's b'sheklium nasa b'yadeh, meaning when he has his professional tool in his hand as a sign, it shows that he's coming to sell. So in that regard, it's the same teaching. But since he's showing that he's here to sell the pots, so that caused ban. So everyone is coming and touching and looking and taking and pointing and poking, and you see guys selling stuff, so you start feeling around like it's a watermelon, as they say, which one's the best one, you're touching on the sides or whatever. So therefore they're all going to be tummy because all the amaratzim are touching every one of his pots, no matter where they are. So that's why they're all going to be tummy. But in general, no, only the outer ones are going to be tummy and not the inner ones. But then the Gemara asks, I'm telling you when the Bryce says the exact opposite. It says Ilil Tyrus. It says the outer pots and the inner pots are all going to be tar. So here he says, yes, but she ain't clean nos b'yadei. Here we're talking about where?
Which tumah?
A tumah of the Amaretz. That's what when the Amaratzim touch, we consider them as like a Zav, as a Baal Kari. They have tumah that they're not matar themselves from Ishtei Nida, whatever, from the clothing. So we consider them as tummy. So the Brisa says that they're both going to be tar. So Rabbi says no problem. Here's the exact opposite. B'shei ain't claiming nos b'yadei. He's not holding any tool of his profession in his hand. So a guy puts on his pots, no one's touching it. You see luggage on the floor, you're not thinking of luggage for sale, and people are touching it. So therefore they're going to be tar. So Gemara says, wait a second. If you tell me the case of when they're both tamis, when he's holding claiming nos b'yadei, you tell me when they're both tar, both rows or whatever are tar when he's not holding it. So then Be'elah did not. Then the Mishnah itself in Masechet Taharos that says that Panim is Taharos V'Chatzon Tamei is the inner ones are tahar, but the outer ones are tamei. What's the case? Other name. Either he's holding it or he's not holding it. Either way, it's either all tamei or all tahar. Says the Gemara, it's a specific case. It's a smichel l'shus harab. It's where it's near the public domain. Umishum chufufi l'shus harab. We're concerned because of the rubbing of the people in the public domain. What happens is that people would put these large stones or these pegs on, like it's like the current day cones, for the sides of the Shus HaRabim. Or these guys, these fancy guys with nice big houses, big rocks, blocking out the people that no one should come onto their property. So to distance the wagons from damaging their walls. Now, since people would push up from the public domain, this guy, he puts his pots near there, where it's pressing in the path of the people. So whoever's passing by over there is rubbing by, and their garments are going over the ear space of the pots. Now, the bigdei Amaretz, the garments of the Amaretz are considered tamei, as the Mishnah teaches Chagigah Daf Yudches, and therefore it contaminates the outer pots, because if you're having rows of pots, the outer ones are where the people are pressing against, and their garments are going over the ear space, contaminating the outer pots. That's why the outer ones are tamei, and the inner ones are going to be tar. So you're right, we could have all them tamei if he's holding claim nos. We can have all them tar if he's not holding nos, and it's just not on the sides of the Shus or the outer ones can be tamei, the inner ones can be tar if he puts it there on the sides of the Shus where people are passing by and have all the amaratzim being matami, the outer ones. Now the Gemara says a third approach.
So this happens even if the Sha'an connects.
Yeah. This would have nothing to do with that. This would be just people passing by. Now. Yeah, because we are claiming nos b'yadei, and they will all be tummy because people are touching them and make them tummy. V'ibay sema. Now we had two approaches so far how to explain this machlekes Rabbi Yehuda and the Rabbanan, how to be miyashav distira. We asked a contradiction in our Mishnah as we explained the Brisa. The Rabbanan are not concerned for goyim. Rabbi Yehuda is concerned for goyim, and in the Mishnah, it seemed the opposite. Yehuda says we're not concerned for goyim. He's believed to say that his friends are good and mine are not, and the Rabbanan are concerned for goyim. So we had two answers so far. First answer was switch around. It's wrong. It's quoted wrong. Abaye said no, don't mix it around. I could answer each one. Yehuda, you're right. Usually he's not that he is concerned for goyim, but by demai he's meko because it's ma'aser roiv amaratzim amaasim. It's a very small suffix. And according to the Rabbanan, it's not difficult because we're talking about claim nos b'yadei. Usually Rabbanan are not chayshah goyim, but the guy's holding his tool. So what's he doing over here? What's he saying that his is not good? Obviously some trick is going on here. That's the second part. Now the Gemara brings the third approach. People say if you want, you could actually explain that in our Mishnah, they're actually not disagreeing regarding goyim. we had assumed, and I actually pointed that out in the beginning, we had assumed that the machlekes is goyman. Besides, could one guy say, as a kohen, ich ben a kohen, and he says, yeah, as a kohen, ich ben a kohen. So, the machlekes in the Mishnah, if you believe it or not, goyman. That's what we thought. Now Gemara says, no, it's not true, it's not what they're disagreeing about, so it's not going to be contradiction regarding the other Mishnah Gemara where they do disagree about goyman. No, it's not about goyman. What they're disagreeing about is regarding, do we elevate someone from his eating truma, or this is machlekes Teiz Rashi, exactly what we're talking about, eating or giving out the portion of truma to yuchasim. The Yehuda holds that if someone sees that you're feeding truma to a person, presumably that he's a kohen, you could testify wherever he is. Oh, as a kohen, he was in that part of the restaurant that only serves truma. So you could elevate him now to yichus. So therefore, if you're going to give him truma to eat, you're ultimately going to bring him to marry a certain type of a wife. Now, that reason is not because of goylin. That's simply because of mal truma liyuchasin. And 1/8 is not valid for yuchasin. So therefore, Jesus says, no. You can't give him truma to eat based on 1/8. Why not? Because if you're going to give him tzedimah, he's going to get married to a certain type of woman. And that's how these people get into the upper echelons. They dress a certain way, and suddenly everyone assumes he's a celebrity too. So then they start giving him contracts. No, you can't. You can't give him truma, because you give him truma, he's going to end up marrying into the kahuna, and he can't. Whereas according to Rabban, they hold, no, ain't mal truma liyuchasin. We don't elevate from truma liyuchasin. Oh, we don't elevate truma liyuchasin? No problem. So for truma, we don't have mala. We have eidach and them bisurin. One guy could testify. And we're going to yichus in the machman? No problem. He's not going to marry because they're eating truma. So therefore, that was their machlekes in the Mishnah. If one person is enough to say regarding the other one, but not the goyman, and therefore, yes, it could be that the other Mishnah that had them disagreeing regarding goyman does not contradict our Mishnah, because our Mishnah wasn't talking about goyman. Machlekes regarding if one person believed is simply because are we concerned that now that we give him truma, is they going to elevate into yichus, which that we don't want. That's the machlekes if we're mal of truma yichus or not. Now, the Gemara now says a different type of a case. Iboilu, I had the following question. You just told me a machlekes in our Mishnah, again according to the third interpretation, regarding if we're malin from truma liyuchasim now. The question is, mal lahalas mishtaris liyuchasim. What's the halacha to elevate from documents to yichus? So the Gemara says, wait a second, what's the case talking about? If it's written on the star, ani pliny, me, that person kohen, I'm a kohen, chasamti eid. So I'm signing as a witness. And you see in the document, a shrat, Yanker HaKoyin Ben Rabbi Chasamti Eid, right? So you see in the document there's a kohen. So would you go ahead and let him get married now to Mecheses? So the Gemara says, wait, Makam Maser Levei. Who's testifying that what he signed is true? How do you know he's a kohen? Because he wrote as a kohen. Ben Rabbi right? You don't know. Says the Gemara, no, it's the Chsiv Bey. What happens actually? What it's written is Ani Plaini Kohen Levisi Monim Plain. It's written, me, Yankel the Kohen, hab gebogt von Shmiel, Halevi, $1,000, v'chasim esahadi. And then witnesses signed on the document that the borrower wrote that he's a Kohen. What's the halacha? What's the question? The Gemara explains, interesting. Amana shebeshtarkum esahadi? Do you say that what is the witnesses testifying? What are they signing on in the document? On the money. Nothing to do with as a kohen, Yisrael, Dan Tatas given the roof and the airlife and I don't care what you're writing there. That's not what I'm signing. I'm saying you owe him $1,000, $100. That's what I'm signing on. That's what I'm verifying. And therefore, we would not be malam mishtaris liyuchasin, because no one's verifying your yichus over here on this document. The witnesses have to verify everything in the document. You go in American law, anything, every word is written. They get paid good money to these lawyers for a reason because every word is going to be critical, because you look at the word, look at the words that were written. So it's not a kohen, it can't be him, and this and that. It's a faulty document. So maybe they're testifying everything. That's the question of Yamal Mishtaras L'Yuchasin. How far does it go? Is it only on the money, or is it everything that's written, including the fact that now they're saying aegis that he's a kohen? So actually says the Gemara, it's actually machlokes. Rav Huna Rav Chizis, machlokes Rav Huna Rav Chizis. One says that we would elevate based on the shtar, one said not, seemingly based on this machlokes regarding what is it that the witnesses are testifying. Now the Gemara says another question. What's the halacha if someone gets up to duchen And he does Nasias Kapayim, lifts up his palms. Yivarecha Hashem Yishmerecha. Oh, it's a kohen. You want to marry Dafka Kuhuna, your Bas Kohen, you want to marry Kohen? Yeah, Chum Gezein Ezra Kohen. How do you know? I saw him dichna. What's halacha? Could you make yichus based on this? What's the question? So the Gemara says you could ask us on both opinions that we mentioned before. You could ask it according to the one who says that we do elevate. If you see someone eating truma, he's in the truma restaurant and only koyanim only, right? So, some segregations that only come allowed in the front of the bus, and they're eating the truma. Everyone, you see them in the back, right? And you see them in the front of the bus eating the truma. So the question is that according to that one who says you would make him for yuchasin, you could ask this question around the sis kabayim, and you could ask the same question according to the one that says no, you would not be malam from truma yuchasin. You could ask, however, would you be malam from the sis kabayim? As the Gemara explains both of these opinions. You could explain this according to the one that says you would elevate. Yeah, hanamili. When did we say that's by truma? Why, if a guy is getting truma, would we say, oh, for sure he can marry Mecheses? Because the oven misahi. If he's really not a kohen, he would never eat truma. That's a death penalty. Eating truma is not stam aveira. It's a grois aveira. It's one of those that's chayiv misa. So okay, mizayin is a kohen. No one would do something that would be something that would get him killed. But regarding duchanin, okay, it's the Israel say. It's just a violation of a positive commandment, which it says in the Torah, so shall you bless. What I mean you should bless is to tell you and not the non-Kahanim. So that's what we call a lava b'machal say. It's a negative prohibition that's derived from a positive commandment, which has the power of a positive commandment. So maybe they would say, no, it's not a raya that it's a kohen. Okay, maybe Sach mentioned Tin Avedas. He got up. He always wanted to see what it felt like being the center of attention on the platform, and his voice ringing out. Everyone's listening. Shalom. Maybe it's not a raya that he's really that he's a kohen that can marry Mecheses. So you could ask it according to the one that says Mama Shmuli Yochsen. Maybe there's no difference. No, a person not going to do that. If you got up to Duchen, you could assume that he's a kohen, you marry her for Yochsen. That's according to that man. The Meil man, the main man, could also ask the question according to the one that says you're not Mama Shmuli Yochsen. Hanami Truma, when did I say that you're not going to take him to the next level of Yichas? That's Truma. Why Truma? Because the Masach Levitzina. Because it's eaten Lamaisa discreetly. And in private, we know how many various people do. So maybe he's not really a kohen. But in private, a person's going to do Havaydas. But to get up there in Duchen, get up there Sikkas on the Yom Tiv, and you get up there, which is out in the open, you love kohen. If he wasn't a kohen, a person would not have the chutzpah, the audacity, to get up there and wash the hand and take off his shoes and get up there in front of everyone and say, who is this guy? Machitziv, throw him on his head. No one had the audacity to do that. And therefore, we even according to one that said, you're not be mal with Shmuel Yuchasin, he would be mal from this Kabam Yuchasin. Like the Melishma, maybe no. Maybe a guy, who knows? If he wants that attention, maybe he would do it. So, again, here also, it's a machlekes of Chizra Avina. Chad Amma, one says Malin, Chad Amma Mal, one says we would elevate, one says we wouldn't elevate. And again, the question is both according to Mandama Mal with Shmuel Yuchasin or a Mal Shmuel Yuchasin. The question is, Nasi's Kabam different both for the better or for the worse? Meaning, would we say that here yeah or here not? Now, similarly, same topic. Rav Nachman Yitzchak Rabbi says the same question. Ma'al lahalas Nasi's Kabam Yuchasin. Rav Nachman Yitzchak asked Rabbi, what's halacha? If you see someone duchening, could you assume on the shidduch resume? Could you say Ezra Kohen? You want to write down that for shidduch purposes? Amalei says the plug because Rabbi Avina. Would you quote in the Gemara? It's machlekes Amirab. I said, what's the halacha? Amalei says, look, I'm not masnidi dan. Says all I know a brisa, and maybe from there we could answer the question. You sound like Leonard Brez, which gets us into a more of a technical conversation, taking us into the next daf. He says the following brisa. It says Gedol Chazak. Sometimes you ask someone a question and he goes in the whole shtickle tire, goes a whole lengthy, this is that type of question. He says, let me tell you a shtickle tire. So, no, that's not what I came for. But he's going to start with a brisa, and we have to go through this whole thing now. It says, the brisa says from Rabbi Yisi, Gedol Chazaka, a presumed prior status that you had, is very great, that even the courts cannot remove you from the chazaka that you had. What do you see? This is it's a pasuk in Ezra. Pasuk says, from the sons of the Kahanim, Bnei Chavaya, the sons of Chavaya, Bnei HaKoitz, the sons of HaKoitz, Bnei Barzilai, the sons of Barzilai, Ashalokach memnois Barzila Hagiladi Isha. They took from the daughters a Brazila Digaladi as a wife, Dikra Shemam, and they were called on their name. Eila, all these Bikshu Kasavim Hamasyachsim, they were looking for what's called Biksavi Yichus. They were looking for the way to prove that they were kosher kahanim. Why? What's this pasuk context talking about? What happened is that the kahanim in the Gullus, they went and they got married to the Gentiles of the land, and they had children, as it's written in the Sefer Ezra. Now that makes those sons of the kahanim halal. So what happened was that those who were born in Gullus needed to find the yichus when they were coming out of Gullus with Ezra HaSefer. If they wanted to do the avodah in the second Beis Hamikdash, they had to prove the yichus that they weren't intermarried, that they're kosher kahanim. But b'leinim so they couldn't find it. They couldn't prove their yichus. So rather, because of that, they were repulsed from the kahuna. And Hatirshas is actually Nechemi ben Chachalia, as it's written in Sefer Ezra and Sefer Nehemiah, Perches. So Hatirshas said to them, look, you guys can't eat from the holies of the holies until a kohen stands up, the kohen gadol, who's going to wear the tumim. Which Rashi says is basically like someone who says to his friend, "Oh, the Mashiach get kimin, then you'll get it," because the tumim was not there at the second Beis Hamikdash. Because as the Gemara tells in Yomid of Chaf and Beis, the second Beis Hamikdash was missing 5 things. One of them was the tumim. So there's no problem, you guys. You can't even go until there's the tumim. Basically, saying, you guys are not negayah. It's like when Mashiach is going to come, which Mashiach is going to come right now. But that's like what he's saying. You're not negayah for now. Now, when he said that you cannot eat b'kodesh hakodeshim, sounds like that he was specifically invalidating them from the kachim of the Beis Hamikdash. But truma, which is only kodesh, which they were accustomed to eating in Gullus Bavel, that he did not make prohibited for them. Why? Because they already had a chazaka all the 70 years in Gullus Bavel. They were always eating truma. Now they're coming to Eretz Yisrael, they're making aliyah, say, hey, chavra, bring the Ksav Yichus. Well, we kahanim, just shut up, bring, let me see. They couldn't, because there's a lot of intermarriage going on with this. It says, look, you guys can't come in, you can't do that either. But what he was telling them, as we're inferring from the pasuk, hariyatim b'ches kasam. But one thing is, you will remain with the chazakas that you had up until now. But ma hayisam oichlem b'goylos. What did you always eat up until this point in the Gullus? B'kachar gvul. What's called truma is called kachar gvul. Why is it called kachar gvul? It's because it's kachim that applies throughout the gvul, beyond the Beis Hamikdash, beyond Yerushalayim, and the whole boundary of Eretz Yisrael is a certain kachim called truma. So that, what you ate in Gullus Bavel, you could continue eating. And so, Afkam b'kachar gvul, also over here, you could continue eating from the truma. Now, but one thing we see from the fact that Yisi said how great a chazaka is, so obviously, then Nesias Kapayim, which they were duchening all these years in the Gullus Bavel also didn't make forbidden for them, because they already were muchzik already. So every Yom Tov, his wife buys him new pairs of socks, and suddenly this Yom Tov, no more new socks, he could wear the ones with the hole. What's going on? He was all these years getting up. No, you could continue. You had a chazaka, you're duchening. Now that you've made Aliyah and Ezra Sefer brought Klal Yisrael up, you can continue duchening. Oh, so then says the Gemara, this is what Rav is responding. He says, look, I have a brisa to answer your question. How do we pass between Machlikas of Chidra Bina? Are we mal from the Nesis Kram Yuchas or not? He says, even entertained to say, mal Nesis Kram Yuchas, and that you do elevate from duchening to yichus. Wait a second. Sahan, he said, these kahan that don't have the Ksav yichus, even the Parsi Yadayu, since they always spread out their hands, they did duchening. Asilasukinu. You told me you're malin Nesis Kram Yuchas. So what do you gain by keeping them duchening? And you don't consider them as kahanim for yichus, for the avodah. What do you mean? But you're going to elevate them because of the fact that they didn't see his kapayim. So says the Gemara, no, it's not true. Shani here it's different. We're not concerned that we're going to elevate them because they're the chazkayim. Here the chazaka is flawed. Why? Because everyone sees all the other kahanim eating their good steaks, the kachim of the Beis Hamikdash, and they're not eating. They're eating the vegetarian diet they got from the grain. They're eating the truma there on the side. So everyone can tell what's going on. Mahani, right? So, there they have, they were the ones that came up from Gullus Bavel. They didn't have the Ksav Yichus. So there's element of psul. But regarding other people, for example, in today's times, we would be Mala from the Tzis Kapam Liyuchas. You can't prove that we're not Mala because there they didn't have a problem because even though they were doing the Tzis Kapayim, meaning generally we would be Mala from the Tzis Kapam Liyuchas. I would say to them, wait a second, they're going to be Mala then. They're not going to be Mala because those people, there was something else proving that they're not regular Kahanim. Because when the Kachim came out, hot steaks, these Kahanim were not eating because they couldn't eat from Kachim. Says the Gemara, and I'll prove this to you. If you don't say this, that this is what they're relying on, that there's obviously something different about these Kahanim, then even Truma itself you should ask. Lamandam, according to the one that says, which we said is a Machlekes, but according to the one that says Mal Mitruma Liyuchas, and you were telling me we're running the Sis Kabam Liyuchas. And I answered that question, I'll prove it to you because according to the one who holds that you're from Truma Liyuchas, well, even after the Truma, you told me that they eat Kachik Dvol. They can have the Chazak continue eating Truma like they always did. So since they're eating Truma, Asla Sekinu. So what's going to come to elevate them? Ella, rather, obviously, we're not going to elevate them for anything. Not for the Avodah, not for Yichis. We're not going to elevate them because there's a flaw in their Chazaka. Because although they're eating Kachim, and meaning Truma, and although we generally elevate from Truma Liyuchas, here we're not going to elevate because we see, wait a second, I know you're eating Truma. And therefore, we normally assume you're regular Kohen. Kosher b'yasher, but you're not, obviously not. Because I see when the Kachim come out, when these hot cakes are coming out with the milk, you guys are not eating from this. So what's going on over here? Oh, you guys are not the regular Kahanim. Okay, so we're not going to elevate. So we're not going to run into that problem. And from that, we're proving from the Mandam of Truma Liyuchas to the explanation of also the Sis Kabam Liyuchas. It's not a right. Even if they can do this Kabam, generally would be Mala. It's not a right that they're not. Could be would, but they're not going to run into that problem. Now we continue to Tavach Chavim and Av, but the Gemara finishes off. Wait, the Elad. If that's the case, then my Gedoyle Chazaka, Rabbi Yisi had said, Chazaka is such a gross zach that really we wouldn't allow you to continue eating Truma. But Chazaka is such a big thing that even now when you're in Eretz Yisrael, we're going to let you continue eating Truma. Why would we stop their Chazaka? What's the concern of being Mavatlet? For that we are okay with them. They don't need Ksav Yichas for eating Truma. For that, they're okay because of the Chazaka. We originally thought that maybe you'd be Mala from Truma Liyuchas or whatever this is, but we're not. We're not saying this consistent. So what's the grace of Chazaka over here? Says the Gemara, no, I'll tell you why. Because Meikara Achab Truma Drabanan. Originally, when they were in Golis Bavel, there's no biblical Truma over there. Because any mitzvah that's dependent on the land only applies in Eretz Yisrael to most of the condition on the Vam base. So what was the Truma they were eating? They were eating only rabbinic Truma. There's no biblical Truma in Bavel. Oh, but Hashta Achab Truma Deraisa. But now, with the Gedolah HaChazaka, they continue to eat Truma, which is biblical Truma. That's a Chiddush. We really maybe wouldn't allow that, because we don't know if they're real Kahanim. The Chazaka is so great that even though they're eating rabbinic Truma, they can continue eating Truma, even though now they're going to be eating biblical Truma. Thank you for any time, those things.
I know, guys.